Okay, so if this is working, what you are seeing is the more or less a view of the job site, and I think you got the internal camera, which I was hoping it would use the external camera because on the external camera you can see the out. Of course, you can see the outside, but you would see what I see. But it doesn't matter. I'll fix this later. Okay, so I'm Jesse. I always say I'm Jesse. It's the only name I use anymore in media broadcasting. Yes, it is dark, and you can see a little bit of light. You may see some people walking by. Now, I used to produce videos, mostly on mental health, now and then on politics, of course. And politics is important. Then religion, faith, spirituality became a big part of my um, life, so I started doing that. And I thought I was going to do the whole Bible, but then I stopped because of personal reasons. And let me see, maybe I can switch cameras, but I'll just keep talking. And there we go. That's good. At least you have something entertaining. Which what you are seeing is the corner of El Paso and 6th Street in El Paso, Texas, USA. And what you see, a lot of the people you're seeing right now are waiting for the buses that take them to go pick whatever onions, jalapenos. So El Paso, Texas is a border city. And I was thinking to myself, there's so much still going on in America. I mean, I would literally like to spend the rest of whatever time I have, days, minutes, years, I don't know, decades maybe if I'm lucky, of my life just mellowing out. I've done a lot as far as I'm concerned. Other people may not have the same impression, but as far as I'm concerned, I've done a lot. And it's time for me to rest. At least I would like to be able to rest. But we had somewhat of a victory with Trump getting elected. Now, bear with me, and I know there's no audience, but this will go on to the library, and then it'll be accessible, and I'll try to find a way to promote it. So there was a little bit of victory in Donald Trump because Donald Trump represented what needs to be represented in America. What happened in America was politics. And in the ugly sport of politics, there were a lot of policies that harmed America and harmed Americans. Now, thinking about it, I know exactly how the people of the United States of America got the mindset that they have. It's not their mindset. It's the mindset of individuals who have been brainwashed by television, movies, a lot of liberal news media, uh, and it has affected their psyche. You can't think straight, can't think in common sense, can't think in traditional family values because of the culture, the electronic media culture that exists today in 2018. And what got me to do this is one, I'm bored. I'm here. There are no customers. Just waiting for someone to come up and ask for service. And if somebody comes up and asks for service, I have to turn it off. But then I've been thinking to myself, why turn it off? And the reason I would turn it off is respect to the customer. So you had a victory with Trump, sort of, because of a lot of decades of mismanagement. The only thing that Obama accomplished was doubling the national debt. See, people don't look into the numbers. I looked into the numbers when George W. Bush left office, the national debt was $8.5 trillion. When Mr. Obama left office, the national debt was $20 trillion. And if you do the math, you realize that's $11.5 trillion, all of it belonging to Obama. And as some people remind me, and that was without the war in Iraq and without the war in Afghanistan. Even though we're still in Afghanistan, we're not as financially involved in these areas as we were when George W. Bush was in office. Excuse me. And in all my videos, I tell you when it's strange that a customer will come and I have a conversation with the customer, and I won't be coughing. But when I start doing these videos and I hope it uploads and I'm able to mess with it later, I'll find out as I go. But again, this is the corner of 6th Street in El Paso, Texas, USA. Um, this is on the American side. Some of the people that will be walking by have just come in. Well, the majority of the people that will be walking by will be people who are in Mexico and are coming into El Paso, Texas. That doesn't necessarily mean that they live here. Okay, so you had Trump. You needed an administrator. You needed a person who can add and subtract. You needed a person who could write budgets. You needed a person who understands economics. You needed a person who understands why it is better to reward the productive members of society than to punish them with high taxes. And as long as I'm talking about taxes, there has to be a concept of fair taxes, because you can tax somebody to the extent that earning a living no longer has any meaning. You hear about the working poor. Well, you can tax people to where you create a lot of working poor. And that goes for corporations also. Corporations not only have to compete with each other here in the United States of America, but they also compete globally. So if you have, for example, a 10% business tax in Canada and a 5% business tax in Mexico, you are hurting American companies by taxing them at a 40% rate. Now, everybody knows that if you lower the price, you motivate economic activity. Everybody should know that. So the people who are saying, well, you've lowered their taxes, the government is going to get less revenue, don't know what they're talking about. Actually, the government should get more revenue because corporations will grow. Their profit margin will grow. And since they pay taxes on their profit margin, the government will get more taxes. Now, that's just on the corporation. The individual will benefit because there are jobs, careers, business investment opportunities. And when the individual takes advantage of these, they start earning an income and then they start paying taxes. So lowering taxes on corporations means the corporation will pay more taxes because they invest in the company and they grow, which generates more tax revenue. It also generates jobs. And when people are working, if they're working at the level, at the rate, in the category where they pay taxes, then those people are going to pay taxes. So your taxes increase by lowering taxes. What you do by hiring taxes, raising taxes, is you decrease the incentive to be involved in the free market system. And the free market system is important because freedom is important. Nobody should be telling you where to work. I don't know if Germany still does this, but they used to test children. They used to give tests to children. And then those tests would decide what that child is going to do as an adult. If that child's going to be a janitor, or that child's going to be a police officer, or that child's going to be whatever. So they were testing children and pigeonholing them into a career. When you have a society that it's free, when you have the free market, when you have free market capitalism, you have the opportunity to get involved as you wish to get involved, as you desire to get involved. And that contributes to a better society, and it can definitely contribute to a better economy. What we have, unfortunately, is a lot of immoral people who are motivated by immoral motives. They like young children. I'm going to put it this way. This is what you got in a small, let's say 25% of business people want to have orgies, want to be involved in drugs, want to sexually abuse children, are involved in human sacrifices. And that percentage, that 20, 25%, whatever it is, manipulates politics. One, they manipulate politics so they don't get caught. The police chief is in their pocket. The director of the FBI is in their pocket. You ask yourself, why do these things exist? How can you find corpses, abandoned in forests across America, and but they don't find the person who committed the crime? And the reason they don't find the person that committed the crime is because it's a member of a secret society, and that's what rich people do. Not all rich people, but a percentage, and that percentage is the reason that most societies are mismanaged. Mexico is very mismanaged. Mexico is completely corrupt. I don't see any reason to believe that there will ever be a reason to have hope for Mexico. Now, I was born in Mexico. I am right now maybe 200 feet from Mexico. Um, I did get 2 degrees in psychology, and I thought about these issues a lot. And what the dynamic and thought of the average Mexican, which has contributed to the downfall of Mexico, that same dynamic can exist in the minds of Americans. See, that's the admonition. The admonition is to do everything wrong, like the people of Mexico have done everything wrong, and your society can fail. Brazil failed. Venezuela failed. Now there's news on Argentina and Costa Rica preparing to fail. We went through the global economic downturn of 2008, and I'm surprised how many people are alive today that were alive in 2008, going through the economic crisis in America, going through the economic crisis in Greece and Spain and Italy, a lot of Europe, and don't understand that all governments have to exist within their limits. I can't spend money I don't have. Whether I don't have a job, I operate a business. Even though it's a one taxi company, I operate a business. When I was a taxi driver, I was operating a business. I was an employee of a company. And again, these are, when you talk to people, they just don't get that concept of self-employed and being a business owner. And a lot of people they just suffer in their intelligence. They suffer in their inability to understand, and the reason that you have, I mean, think about it. How do you go in 2 years from being super hyper on Trump to turning your back on Trump? The people who, well, we know what Democrats are going to do, but the conservatives who failed at holding the House of Representatives for Republicans, I don't know what to say. It was important to elect Trump. It was important to keep a Republican. But then again, I mean, ultimately, you got to ask the question: what are the Republicans doing, and what were the Republicans doing? And since Obama, the Republicans literally have not been doing anything substantive for America. Little McCain had to come in and murder the repeal and replace effort by voting against one vote. McCain, John McCain. And when that man was dying, he was receiving the best health care that America has to offer. But as far as he was concerned, Americans were only worth a mediocre, substandard health care. He can get the best health care possible because he's a senator, but you regular people, you must be shackled to Obamacare. And that kind of stupidity in politics, really, I mean, it's very not upsetting. What's wrong with healthcare in America? What's wrong with healthcare in America is what's wrong with everything in America. Is that you have a few major conglomerates, international corporations that own the majority of hospitals, laboratories, clinics. And because of that, they control the price that you're going to pay. There is no competition. See, because in a free market society, free market capitalism, there's supposed to be competition, and competition contributes to the price. It's like I try to get people to understand that there is no need for regulation because the consumer ultimately says, I will or I will not spend my money at this business. And if those who run businesses want to get the money of consumers, then they have to behave in a way that encourages the consumer to purchase, to make a purchase. You don't need regulation when the consumer's in charge. Say, now, even on safety issues, it is unfortunate that humans trying to save a buck will take risks, and those risks will harm someone. Coughing is getting worse. But ultimately, who ends up getting harmed the worst is the company where those employees made those poor decisions, because people lose confidence in that company and they go somewhere else. Now, how do you become aware? And we have a very irresponsible what it calls itself media nowadays really isn't living up to the First Amendment responsibilities. First Amendment, see, this is the way it works, so you understand. And there's a lot. I can't believe how much. I want to use words, but I gotta remember to use words that are non-offensive. I just can't believe how uninformed people are. Government doesn't give you one single right. The United States Constitution is not government giving rights to people. The United States Constitution, it's a recognition by government that these are individual rights that government cannot interfere with. That's the United States Constitution. It's not government saying we're going to give you. It's like the Second Amendment was being discussed on the 5 on Fox News. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that cops are not going to save your life. Cops are not following you around as a protection force, as bodyguards, trying to keep you safe from criminal activity. If you are to encounter criminal activity that jeopardizes your life, the only person that can save your life is you, or somebody that's a good person who's standing close to you and is willing to come to your assistance. It takes police here in El Paso 10-15 minutes. Here where I work, and I can say this by personal experience, here where I work, where I conduct business, I don't have a job. Sometimes people are behaving violent, sometimes against women, and I meet my moral obligation by calling 911 and trying to get them assistance. Excuse me. I just have to wait till the coughing ceases. I've learned not to give in to it. But I call, and it's 100 questions. When I worked in security, all we needed to do was say what and where. There's a man hitting a woman in front of the emergency room. That's all we needed to say. And all of us knew what to do and where to go. I mean, I can tell these people the corner of 6th Street and El Paso, and there's only one place in El Paso where 6th Street and El Paso meet. And these people keep asking for an exact address. Descriptions, weapons, are they intoxicated? It's like, well, why don't you guys go over there and do your job? And That's just to get the 911 operator to send the police. After they send the police, what they do in El Paso is they have this little computer, and on that computer are the calls that have come in, and the police choose which call to go to. And I'm going to say they show very poor skills in setting priorities, because to me, a a person being physically assaulted is more important than a lost cat or some guy riding a bicycle who looks drunk. But that's what you get, you know. So it is important that the Second Amendment is important for self-defense, because the cops, even if they're good, I mean, you'd have to tell me what measuring stick you are using to say that they are good. Let's just say they are good. They're not near you. If anything, they're near an interstate, because they seem to be heavily obsessed on traffic citations. But again, the Constitution is a recognition by government, the way the framing fathers set it up, where government recognizes that these are rights just because we're alive, that no one can take away from us, that we do have the right to keep an eye on government, that we do have a right to defend ourselves, that we do have a right to be protected from government looking through our papers, looking through our cell phones, looking through our laptops, that the government can't use your home to work out of. The police cannot just come in and say, we're going to work out of your home. The military cannot show up and say, we're going to work out of your home. You know, you're right that we're against self-incrimination. You know, you don't have to talk to a police officer. You don't have to say anything to a police officer other than, I'm not legally required to talk to you. I'm not going to answer your questions. And that's just out of courtesy, I guess. But all that is that you were born with these rights, and government cannot interfere. So the Constitution is not giving you any rights. It is recognizing that all people, just for the mere act of being alive, have these guarantees and protections that no one can encroach upon. And when you look at society, they're necessary. I don't know what the Mexican Constitution looks like, but I know what the Mexican society looks like. I don't know what the Iraqi Constitution looks like, but I know what the Iraqi society looks like. And I do have a choice. I wouldn't choose to live in Iraq. I wouldn't choose to live in Afghanistan. I wouldn't choose to live in Mexico. I don't know if I even would choose to live in Canada. You know, and you wonder about the people of the United States of America. Don't they understand the importance of freedom, liberty, and independence? Don't they understand that they are better off in charge of their lives? I mean, you have everything in society. You do. You have lazy slobs. You have hardworking, productive members of society. You have people whose life plan, yes, you have people whose life plan is to hustle other people. There's a person who walks by during the day and he sells watches. If you go into one of these stores here in downtown El Paso, you'll see cases of those watches where it's $10.99 for 10. $10.99 for 10. And this guy's selling them for $20, $25. And he must be a good salesman, because he goes on about how, oh, look at this and oh, look at that. And, you know, there's a lot of stores that sell cheap stuff here in downtown El Paso. And if you go into the stores where they have these watches, you'll see them there. in a case for 10 watches for $10.99. Of course, if you're going to pay the taxes on it, but the point being is, if they're in a case for $10.99, they're not worth more than $2. And there are people whose basic existence is to hustle other people. Directly in front of me, you can't see them. I can, but you can't. I won't bother to point the camera over there. Not necessary. But you have an individual selling burritos out of his van, no permit, no license, just shows up around this hour to sell the burritos to the people who are waiting to get picked up to go uh, dig for chiles and onions and whatever the case may be, the field workers. And this and that other person, because in this corner of the world, the reason I stay locked in inside my service vehicle is because there are a lot of hoodlums. And you will notice they've been doing 25 minutes and not one police car has passed by. Not one police car has passed by. The police don't come through here. There's a lot of crime. I know, because I conduct business here. I see what goes on around me. There's a lot of crime. So there are people whose sole purpose in life is to hustle, to take advantage of other people. Listen, and this bothers me a little bit, because I know Christians have good hearts and they want to help people, and it's okay to have a good heart and to want to help people, and to want to help people, but you also want to protect yourself. You want to be security minded. And what I heard a minister say is that if you die while you're helping people, well, you're going to go to heaven anyways. Okay, that's true. However, you should be security minded, because there are people out there. In my business, I am well armed. Follow the law. Anything related to firearms, I tell people, know the law and follow the law. And if you don't like the law, talk to your neighbors and get that law changed. But I know what weapons I can carry, and I know how to defend myself. And when you're doing Christian ministry, you should just be security minded. Okay? In life, you should be security minded. But because there are people out there whose sole purpose in existing is to get you to turn your head so they can take your iPhone. There are a lot of people who go to bars, leave their phone and purses on the table while they go dance a little, and they come back and the phone is gone. And I'm surprised that they're surprised that it was stolen. I mean, what world do you think you live in? You leave valuable property, it's going to get stolen. Okay, I shouldn't say this, but a whole bunch of people are going to sit down to celebrate Thanksgiving dinner. And after the meal is gone and the friends and relatives go home, people are going to start noticing that things are missing. Family and friends will steal from you. That's the kind of world we live in. And you just have to be smart. And the point is, the big picture is, what society do we want to live in? The best society is the one where people are free, where people have liberty, where people have independence, where the government respects individual rights, the rights of the individual that belong to the individual, for the mere act of being alive, like the right to life. And okay. See, in security, one of the things that will get your attention, I'm not working security, but one of the things that will get your attention is sounds. And I heard a couple of sounds, but okay. So you're trying to build a quality society. Equality society is not where the people in the Congress, in the House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, spend their time doing favors to their friends in business. As the apparently I'm going to keep coughing, but ask yourself, what possible reason could there be for Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell to be so obsessed with illegal immigration reform? The last couple of months of Obama's administration, there was an invasion of Cubans. See, most people don't see this stuff. We're right here where I'm sitting right now. Those of us who operate our taxes in this area, we're seeing hordes of Cubans. And your tax dollars was given to these people to buy airplane tickets, to go to their families, where they were going to receive their visa. The address that they gave is where they were going to receive their visa. What possible reason could there be for Republicans to be engaged in this conspiracy against the people of America? If you look at statistics, sociological statistics, there are approximately 50. Okay, so 15 million homeless, unemployed. And it's probably the same group. You're probably counting the same group, unemployed, homeless. And some unemployment do have homes. But let's say together, if you can say unemployed and homeless, 25 million. If you have 25 million people who don't have work and don't have homes, the better administrative policy is to get jobs for those people who are unemployed and those people who are homeless. We all have been hearing about the homeless in Oakland and Los Angeles. Why do you need to import Mexicans, Cubans, and Arabs when you have a bunch of unemployed people in America? When you have a bunch of homeless people in America? Receiving, by the way, the thing that they're not without is government assistance. They're getting food stamps and welfare, especially if they have children. They may not be getting housing. I was watching a documentary on the homeless, and the ironic thing is that several of the people were talking about how much money they get a month, which was around $1,500, which in California is not even the rent on an apartment or a house, but in El Paso, Texas, you'd be living like a king. Of course, if you're coming to El Paso, Texas, the state of Texas will adjust your food stamps and welfare to meet the cost of living in Texas. Point being is that they're not without financial resources. In my business, now and then at the beginning of the month, I get these individuals who got their Social Security and they've been living on the street, scraping for a beer here and there, but as soon as they get their Social Security, it's time to go rent a motel room and have a party. I guess it's their life. It's what they want to do. Who can tell them not to? But instead of living a good life, and here, I mean, you know, it's people at all levels of American society. Those people who those conservatives who didn't vote and helped the Democrats take over the House of Representatives, you failed. You betrayed freedom, you betrayed liberty, you betrayed independence, you betrayed the free market capitalism, you betrayed jobs and careers and business opportunities. The difference between a job and a career is a profession, whether a university degree helped you get it or not. A business opportunity is like a franchise or a business that you can buy or something you can invest in. And a job is something you go to and you hate and you don't want to even be there. But you have to do it because that's what pays the bills. And sort of the business I'm in, which is not a job, it's a business. I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. See, but you have people who bought into the liberal news spin on Donald Trump. All these people, the majority of people you see standing around me, man, I honestly hate them. Ignorant, stupid. You cannot find people dumber than these people. And when they start talking about Trump, they start talking like they're the smartest university professor that has ever lived. And all they know how to do is talk stupidity. And those people who supported those Democrats and helped them take the House of Representatives, you're worse than these people. Your university degree, your job as a nurse or as a school teacher does not matter. That you don't have better common sense that these ignorant people here who are in front of the camera right now should be ashamed of yourself. There's a reason why they're out here at 2 in the morning waiting for a van or a bus that's going to take them to the onion patch or the pepper patch where they're going to go work and maybe make $25, $30 a day. If you ever sat down and talked to a person that works onions and peppers and lettuce and they tell you they make $100 a day, they're bragging. They don't want to admit what they really make because they're self-conscious about it, and they should be self-conscious about it. At the end of the day, they're going to go right back into Mexico because that's the only place they can afford to live when they're making $25, $30 a day. But the point being is that you have different types of, I don't want to use the word intelligence, different type of understanding. Like, it's a better word because it isn't intelligence. You couldn't be an intelligent person and allow the Democrats to take the House of Representatives at this point in time, where you have a person like Trump in the office of the presidency. There's nothing wrong with Trump. There's nothing wrong with Trump policy. There's nothing wrong with Trump's tweets. The problem is perception. The people who have upset me the most since Trump got elected have been Republicans, conservatives, trying to discern the meaning behind a Trump tweet. Like there's some kind of wise, sage, philosopher. I, as a reasonable, rational person with 2 degrees in psychology, find nothing absolutely wrong. The better word would be defective. I find nothing defective with Mr. Trump. Absolutely nothing. Huh. You can see the moon. Well, that's interesting. Right up at the top of the camera's capturing the moon. Interesting. Not on the lower part. That's a little light in the parking lot there. Nothing wrong. I mean, how do you, as a mental health person, I heard this where this person who was shot up, I don't know what city it was, but on the day that the person went out to kill people, he was visited by a state mental health person or somebody in that area's government mental health. Interviewed the person and came to the conclusion that the person was not a danger to himself or others. And people are wondering, well, how could a mental health expert come to this conclusion? And the reason that the mental health expert could come to that conclusion is basic, because you're listening to what the person is telling you. You're not reading minds. Now, I sat there and thought about it and said, well, there's a lot that this mental health expert should have noticed in the person's behavior, because you do have, certain tells, the way the person speaks, um, the emotions that are displayed, the reports of the individuals around him. So it's not just a testimony that the person is given on himself. It does he look well shaven? Does it look like he's been eating? Does it look stressed out? How's the clothes? Does it look like he's been taking care of himself, taking baths, eating? The home itself will give you some idea. Um, the emotions. Is there anger? Is there rage? Are there watery eyes? You know, so the person can tell you that everything is fine, but if they're sobbing through the whole interview, a mental health expert should be able to put two and two together and say, I think it's in your best interest that you, at the minimum, um, do a voluntary, admittance into a mental health facility. And then if the individual refuses, then you can continue with the interview. And of course, you listen to the people around him. And in this case, I believe the people around him were saying that he was being violent, use the word belligerent, and that he had weapons, which should have set out red flags in the mental health expert. And if I had been reviewing a case where the mental health expert visited a person where the friends and family members were reporting them as irrational, violent, aggressive, emotionally volatile, and the person didn't look like he'd been taking care of himself, showering, shaving, eating, sleeping, and that person failed to issue a medical warrant, I would have brought that guy up on charges of incompetence, because you should. This basic interaction with people and your training in mental health. And again, one of the things that I must say is that a lot of times these people are sociologists, not people who have studied psychology, not people with masters in psychology. They're masters in sociology. And the difference is sociologists study group statistics. Psychologists study the individual and the dynamics, the mental health, the mental processes that lead to behavior. There's a debate of whether your sole purpose is to affect behavior or to truly understand the person. And I happen to believe that the purpose of a psychologist is to understand the individual as much as you're able to. But then again, you're left at, that the person who's answering the questions, giving you the information, you have to consider that information. And if the person looks reasonable, isn't showing signs of being emotionally upset, emotionally volatile, isn't threatening you, isn't yelling and screaming, then you're left. But again, in this case, there were reports from individuals, witnesses, that should have been listened to. Now, how do you get people to be good, decent people? The people don't understand how morally defective the people of Mexico are. I do, because I've meditated on the issue. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I took actual psychology courses. And behavior is an indicator of morality. Let me say that again. Behavior is an indicator of morality. The fact that somebody commits a crime is giving you an insight into that individual's morality. It's giving you an insight into that individual's ethics. The people of Mexico coming into the United States of America illegally know they're committing a crime. They go through the physical responses to stress. They experience shame and embarrassment. They get nervous. Sometimes the customs officers are able to catch them as they're trying to come through, walk into the United States of America, is because they do look nervous, because they are sweating. So they understand. The person from Mexico understands that he or she is committing a crime. The person confused about what the Mexican is actually doing are all these Americans who have been brainwashed by the news media that entering the country legal is not that big an offense. It's a very big offense. It costs money, first of all. I can tell you, as a person born in Mexico, spent over 45 years of his life in El Paso, Texas, that the people of Mexico are very immoral. They're very unethical. There's people who will brag about what they were able to build after they entered the country legally. I don't care if you're a bank president. I don't care if you build a furniture store. You started with criminal behavior. I was watching a movie. I don't remember the name of it. I think it's Right Out of Compton or something like that. And we learned that one of these rappers got their start with profits from cocaine. Before this movie came out, I had never heard that. Now, this person is rich, he's a movie star, what have you. Can we honestly cheer his victory, considering that the beginning was from the profits of cocaine sales? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say this person should be shunned. No one should pay him any attention. Nobody should see his television specials. Nobody should see his movies. Nobody should buy his music. Yeah, he should be forced to give all his money for drug rehabilitation. Is there hope for America? I haven't the slightest idea. If there's hope for America or if there's no hope for America, I just don't know. You have a person like Donald Trump, accused of being a sexist, accused of being a racist, for wanting the United States of America to be properly administrated. America doesn't hire a president of the American economy. It's not what you vote for. You vote for a chief executive officer of the U.S. government. That's what you vote for. It is Trump's responsibility to make sure that the departments of the United States government run effectively and efficiently. And Trump in the business world has proved that he has the personal mental skills to budget. Oh no, here come these little street people, these hustlers, users, and abusers. That they were coming towards my taxi. Well, they start with dirt. I had one. Don't know how many days. Good, they chose to go somewhere else. I don't know how many days. Started throwing up and completely soiled the right side of my vehicle. It's taken me 3 days to sort of get it clean. They come over and start asking for discounts and just don't like being around these people. Well, they're out of camera range. How come they're out of camera? Oh, okay, I got it. Anyways, who are the people in the United States of America who couldn't recognize that lowering taxes for people under 25,000 was a good thing, Lowering taxes for corporations, what's a good thing? Again, you lower taxes on corporations, the administrators of those corporations invest in their corporations, which means there's growth in those companies, and the growth in those companies means there will be more tax revenue. There'll be more tax revenue, and that means, and then there'll be more tax revenue because there'll be jobs, careers, and business opportunities. And when people start working, they start paying taxes. So you're going to get more taxes because companies are growing, and you're going to get more taxes because people are working. And those who don't understand that, they don't want people to work. Democrats don't want people to work. It's never a good idea to have government in charge of individual life. Imagine a world where government is in charge of everything, and government can tell you no, you cannot have a child, and that would be China. So don't say that will never exist, because it does exist. Even though China has said that they have stopped their one child policy, China's still communist. Who knows the difference between what the leadership of China says and what's actual reality? But freedom is always the better answer. And unfortunately, in freedom allows for churches to exist, but freedom also allows for pornography to exist. Freedom also allows for sex before marriage. Freedom allows for the technical, for the electronic media environment that we have, that works at destroying the family, that works at destroying the community, that works at destroying the church. You works at destroying individual rights. The Second Amendment constitutional right is not a right that government gives us. It's a right we're born with, because we have the right to defend our lives. We have the rights to defend our lives against individuals or groups, like militaries and sheriff's departments. We have that right not because we live within the borders of the United States of America. We have that right just because we are alive. But people in America do not understand exactly what are constitutionally protected rights. These are not rights that the government gives you. This is a right that the government recognizes you're born with, and they cannot mess with. So, well, outside of due process, because if you're committing crimes, your right to freedom you have given away. And because you've given your right to freedom away, then government can put you in prison. And in a free society, you should have enough common sense individuals that are paying attention and can stop government when government misbehaves. But is there any hope for America? I don't think so. I think what we have seen, and Trump's not the problem. The liberal news media is the problem. People with a lot of money, like Amazon, the owner of Amazon and Facebook, and other individuals who are paying protesters to cause chaos, to appear to dissent. And personally, I think it should be a crime to uh, to work against American society, not against American government, but to work against the United States Constitution, which is the backbone of American society. The backbone of American society because it's the backbone of freedom, liberty, and independence. The fact that you can apply to any job that you want to apply to is because you have freedom. The fact that you can have any good dream that you can have is because of freedom. And the fact that you have freedom, liberty, and independence means that you can make those dreams become a reality. You can use resources in your environment to work at making your dreams become a reality. You don't get that in a communist society. You don't get that in a socialist society. You could only get that in a free society with free market capitalism. And that's why it's important. Because America can only stay strong if you have a lot of free people working at being productive and keeping an eye on their government. It's the only way America can succeed. It's the only way that America can go forward. You have individuals who think that they're being kind. Who are they being kind to? In the conversation of prison reform, these people, every criminal, I think God is right. Well, God is always right. But when God and I were meditating on the issue of the death penalty, God reminded me that every person who commits a crime has an idea of what the punishment is going to be if they're ever caught. Every person who commits a crime has an idea of what the punishment is going to be if and when they get caught. You go to any prison and you ask what class of crime is this behavior, and they'll tell you. Second-degree felony. They'll tell you. So criminals know what the punishment of the crimes are before they were caught and tried in a court of law. Most criminals do. And if they don't know the exact time that they're going to have to face when they get caught, they have an idea that there's going to be a punishment. Every criminal knows there's going to be a punishment when they get caught. So the fear of being punished isn't enough to keep these particular individuals from committing crimes. So if the fear of spending 50 years in prison isn't enough to keep these people from committing crimes, how is only giving them 10 years going to stop them from committing these crimes? It makes no sense. Prison reform is the easiest prison reform is for people just not to commit crimes. There was a news story, some poor little fella who got caught in the 3 strikes law, and 3 strikes means you commit 3 crimes, it's over. Doesn't matter what the crimes are. I mean, it matters. Low-level crimes are not going to send you to prison for the rest of your life. But people who don't commit crimes know that they live in an area of 3 strikes and they know which crimes will lead you to, on that 3rd strike, to be put in prison for life. Now, these criminals knew when they committed the 1st strike of the punishment, they knew when they committed the 2nd strike of the punishment, and they knew when they were committing the 3rd strike of the punishment, and that wasn't enough to stop them from committing crime. In deterrence, and that should be a goal of law enforcement, we, people who pay taxes, who are truly in charge, the police are not in charge, the police chief is not in charge, it's the people who are in charge. We should demand that, certain things be done and certain things be done right. And deterrence should be one of those things that are done right. And you got to explain to me, if a person knew they were facing 50 years for committing a crime and they committed that crime anyways, how are you going to deter that crime by lessening their prison sentence? If the reality of being sent to prison for 50 years wasn't enough to stop them from committing the crime, how is 10 years going to be enough to stop them? It's not. And now you got to start thinking about victims' rights. Why should the victims be held responsible for rehabilitating these criminals? What's the difference between them and us? Why are they criminals and why are we not criminals? We're all human beings. You know, I don't spend my life in a struggle between um, urges to commit crimes and fighting the urge to commit a crime. I don't. I have no interest in committing a crime. People will say, well, you operate a taxi. I operate a business. Conducting business in America is not a crime. It's my business. I'm the one who decides what I charge. And if I want to make money, again, if I want to make money, I got to work with the customer. So ultimately, the customer's in charge. The customer decides how much I will of his or her money I will get. So I could want $200. Doesn't mean I'm going to get $200. But if I want $200 and the customer is willing to give me 100, and my intent is to make money, then I will accept it, and I will accept it with a smile on my face. That's business. The idea that if government is not involved, business cannot be honorable, no. People will talk to other people about how I conduct my business, and that will either contribute to my goals of making money, or it will contribute to not making money, where I will fail in my goals. So it's in my best interest that I behave as a person who has an honest interest in making money. Government doesn't need to be involved. Does government need to be certain things government maybe needs to be involved in, but the reality is corporations should fear the customer. Hospitals should fear the customer. Laboratories should fear the customer. They should fear that if the customer believes that they are being gouged, taken advantage of, they'll go away. But the customer is just getting an MRI. The customer is just having his or her blood drawn. The customer is just having this or that operation. The customer is in pain. And because the customer is not paying, they don't feel that the pain of having all that money sucked out of their bank account, and they're not looking for alternatives. And you can't have alternatives where hospitals, clinics, what else? Laboratories, everything related to healthcare is dominated by three large healthcare groups. Same for insurance. You have no options when two or three large corporations control. Like you have no options with Twitter because Twitter is the only one doing what Twitter does. You have no options with Facebook because Facebook's the only one doing what Facebook does. You have no options with Google because Google's the only one doing what Google does with YouTube and Gmail and everything else. There's no competition. And they can take advantage and restrict free speech, which is a violation of the United States Constitution, by the way. It doesn't matter that a corporation is doing it. It's yeah, it's sort of like advertising in a paper. You can't deny your advertising just because they don't like your political viewpoint. And YouTube is famous for that, for not allowing people to make money because they don't like their viewpoint. Liberals will never have their money making ability on YouTube questioned or interfered with because they're liberals. And it is a conspiracy. People need to wake up and realize it is a conspiracy. It isn't an accident. This is by design. They want to destroy America. They want conservatives to shut up and go away so they can turn America into a socialist nation. And right after they turn it into a socialist nation, Russia and China will come in and take over the United States of America. Because America, well, one, they're dreaming falsely because they think that the worker, which is valuable, which is the consumer, they're going to be able to enslave. but you're not gonna. No one is gonna continue to work for you under a communist system. Why are their people unproductive? Why did China have to go to what they call a capitalist communist system? Capitalism doesn't work. The only part of the capitalist of the communist thing that they kept was that they are in charge, and they get to tell the people of China what to do. That's the only thing of communism they kept. They didn't keep the economic system in the capitalist system, where government provides and government's in charge. It's kind of perverse that you would let people become millionaires, but it sort of makes sense. I mean, in the communist system, it makes sense that you would let them become millionaires if you're going to take 90% of their income. And they're going to live like they're millionaires when in reality they're not millionaires. They're enslaved people. Russia's not a democracy. Russia is not a democracy. Putin has been in charge since what was that guy, Chernenko, or the guy right after the other guy with a spot on his forehead, Gorbachev. Forget the guy who took over, Yeltsin. Thank you very much. Right after Yeltsin, little Putin came in, and little Putin has been prime minister and president of Russia. And he hasn't left. Other people have left. Medvedev, well, that guy left. The guy who Obama was stroking, that guy left, but Putin's still there. This is not a democracy. They can call it any damn thing they want. It's not a democracy. It's still a communist country. Russia is still a communist country. Can they produce anything? Can they produce anything that people want? They have a lot of oil, but aren't able to do much because the price of oil fluctuates. When the price of oil was $115 a barrel, Brazil, Venezuela, Russia, other nations were living high off the hog. And now that the international price of a barrel of oil is at $50, and that's why these countries failed, because they spent their money. When they were selling all that oil at a high price, they were buying a whole bunch of stuff. The price of a barrel dropped, and now they have to pay the bills, but they're not getting the same income. And it doesn't matter. What do they produce? China produces cheap labor. In science and technology, what does China produce? China takes advantage, and really we're to blame because we're buying all their crap. We're buying all that garbage made in China. And I say that knowing that it is hard to buy anything made in America. If you find something that's made in America, it's 400% more than the Chinese product. And what contributes to that? But ultimately, what's wrong with you Americans? You had an opportunity to lower your national debt. You had an opportunity to stop the government in its irresponsible spending. You had an opportunity to deal with nations and corporations that have been taking advantage of the American people. You had an opportunity to get the people of Mexico and other countries to respect you and to respect your borders and to respect your tax dollars, your money, your hard-earned money, and you pissed it away. Your own personal benefit was not enough to motivate you to go out and to vote for Republicans. And of course, the question is, so what? Because we saw what Republicans were through the 8 years of Obama. We saw what Republicans were through the 2 years of Trump, where Republicans cared more about their corporate masters than the American people. But if you honestly believe that Democrat is a better, different choice than a Republican, you're crazy. You don't know what a Democrat is. Mr. Trump, you're involved now. You said you were not a politician, but you are a politician now. And you're involved in the sick psychology of politics. There is, somebody said today that we're not at war with Americans. We're at war. Yeah, we are. The Democrats in the House of Representatives and in the Senate are at war with Americans because of the policies that they pursue. Policies that overtax Americans, policies that give corporations control of American lives. The only thing Obama did was enslave a whole bunch of people to the insurance companies in America. It didn't help you. It didn't help you one darn bit. If you were poor and you didn't have access to health care because of your insurance, you're poor and you don't have access to health care because of your insurance now, even after Obamacare. Again, say 5 years. 5 years ago, there were some people here, some poor people, and they were talking about how they went down to the office, and I know what office they meant, to see about their Obamacare insurance, and they were upset that they were going to be expected. And these people are, you could say, at the low end of the income scale. And they were going to have to pay $100 on a month on their insurance. And when you're barely making $500 and the government wants you to pay $100 a month on your insurance, what do? Do you eat? Do you pay for your little apartment? Or do you give $100 to the government and become homeless? Or maybe eat once a week? So even poor people didn't get help by Obamacare. I personally thought it was funny. These were the people who were yelling for Obamacare. These are people who were thinking that Obamacare was going to be the best thing since, who knows, gold falling from the sky. But there are severe consequences. And those severe consequences are faced by individuals who don't pay attention, don't understand, and who've been brainwashed. And their perception, their philosophy of life is all that negativity that they've acquired from the negative electronic media. Is there hope for America? No, I don't think there's hope for America. I do not think there's hope for America.